imagination as far as the scope of it is concerned. But we stand on the brink of it, and the world is in turmoil. We're going to try to bring some clarity to it. When I return, don't you go anywhere. I'm CL. This is the CL Bryant Show. Back in just a couple minutes. CL back with you on this Friday evening. It is the weekend show, and we are broadcasting from the jeweled cities of the Arklatex, Shreveport, and Bossier City. I want to welcome aboard every one of you here in the Arklatex area, Southern Arkansas, East Texas. Thank you for being on board with me. Now, all of you know that this nation was founded on godly principles that in fact do take us to places where we many times have forgotten that we were. Many times it takes us to places where we should remember that we should go to. And there is a cap, there's a t-shirt, and there are other products here in this country right now, and especially that's available to you locally, that can, simply by having them, remind each and every one of us of what it will take to be, what it would take for our nation. Jay, let's start this segment. Let's start this segment over, man, because I could hear you coming in. Yeah. Yeah, but hey, I mean, it's okay. We can call her. Just tell her, hey, yeah, just push her back. You know, I'm going to start this over because I can hear you bleeding in. And tell her, hey, if she calls back, tell her we taping. We can't got time for no foolishness. Okay. CL with you on this Friday evening, and I want to thank each and every one of you for joining me here for the weekend show. This show will re-air on The Promise both tomorrow and on Monday, so be sure to tune that in as well. Now, also, I want to remind each and every one of you, go to 101.7 on your FM dial, and you can get this show as well in crystal clear on your FM, or just stay with us here on 710 Keel AM. There is a article, there is a product that I think each and every one of you should pay attention to. It's local. It's right here in the Arklatex. It has an incredible meaning to it. Before we start doing our year-end review, I want to introduce you to both the founder of the idea, the founder of this product, and someone who I am really going to introduce further up the chain, because I think there is a bridge that can be built for us all here in America with this product and the idea of making America great again. And America, it is important that we understand our roots. Our roots are founded in or grounded in the idea that we are endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights, and among them is life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. And all of you who know who I am and know what I do, you know that my first and foremost love is the gospel of Jesus Christ, unashamedly, unabashedly a Christian. And joining me now is the founder of Go Mad. Go Mad. Oh, it made me sound. What's Christian about that, CL? We're going to find out. His name is Dennis Bailey. He is the founder, owner, operator of Go Mad, www.gomadtags.com. That's where you can pick up this product. Dennis Bailey, welcome for the first time in studio with me to the CL Bryant Show, brother.
Thank you very much, CL. I'm happy to be here, and thank you for allowing me this avenue to come out and share with you.
Well, man, I am really glad to offer it to you because I like the idea. Now, I know everyone is wondering, now, this Go Mad stuff, what is that all about? Tell us.
Go Mad started initially with my two boys when they were going to school. Our two boys. I know my wife will get me if I don't include her in this.
Yeah, I understand.
But when Christian and Joel would go out to school, we would tell them, go mad. At that time, we meant go make a difference. And so that we kept them every time they went out the door. We tell them, make sure, go mad. So it became a motto between us. I was meditating on that scripture, that Matthew 28:19, where it says, go ye therefore into all the world and make disciples. And I began to meditate on that, and God says, what is the best way to make a difference in men's lives than to make them into disciples? And that's when the moment came. The words began to fly off the pages. Go out, make another disciple. That's every Christian's mandate. We've been commanded to do that. And so Go Mad, which initially started as go make a difference, now became go out, make another disciple. And the Lord shared that with me, gave me a symbol, and that symbol transitioned into the caps, into the T-shirts, into the wristbands. And I'm trying to get this into people to show them what our mandate is. Evangelism, or the Great Commission, has really become the Great No Mission, or the Great Omission.
I really like that. And you can find this cap you can find the caps, T-shirts, bracelets.
Yes.
At the website gomadtags.com.
Absolutely.
Is that where you can find them?
Yes, sir.
Because you see, folks, in this world, in our America that we're looking at today, there are people all over the country who seemingly are going mad, not in the way that Dennis Bailey's talking about. Mm-hmm. They're going mad in ways that are not productive to our society. But Dennis, what you have instilled in your children, your sons in particular, is something that I do believe is very important for all of us as Americans to embrace. Whether you're a Christian, a Jew, or whoever you are.
That's what makes it so wonderful.
That you make another disciple of something civil.
Yes.
And I like that idea, man. I really like that idea. I think the folks up the chain may like this idea too.
I hope so. It's not relegated to any particular denomination. And that's the part that crosses. It crosses lines of culture. It crosses lines of denomination. It crosses lines of whomever. It doesn't matter where you are, where you're from. You can go out and make another disciple for the Lord. And that's the process of what we're trying to reinvigorate. Every time I've been able to wear the cap or had it down in Houston, where I'm originally from, people have approached me. They initially see it from a distance as the symbol of a cross. But as they get closer and they see Go Mad, then it invigorates a curiosity in them that gives me an opportunity to tell them about the Lord.
I'm looking across the podium right now, and I'm looking at the logos, and me being a little bit nearsighted, being a lot nearsighted, but I'm just looking at the logo, and yes, it is the cross. I can see that. But folks, let's look at the flip side of this, though, Dennis. What is, in your estimation, in your opinion, causing so many of our citizens in this country to just flip out, man, in ways that, in our young people in particular?
Wow.
I saw the mall brawls that were going on, and the young people had gotten on social media, and they had encouraged other young people to come out and flash mob at certain malls around the country. There seems to be a certain madness, a certain looniness that's taking place that I feel that this is a perfect counterbalance to it, yet speaking to what's happening at the same time. They are going mad, but there's a different way to do that. What's contributing to that in your estimation?
I believe the lack of involvement parentally. Children more and more are having children a whole lot earlier, and the values in which that you and I were grown up with. I mean, of course, my parents wasted no time in making sure we followed. We stayed in church. Monday through Sunday, we stayed in church, and so those particular values, those parents, community involvement. The teachers were in the same communities. I even go as far as to say that neighbors down the street, we were so interconnected. The community was really a community that if I messed up down the street, then Miss Williams or whomever down the street saw me cutting up, they had the freedom to tear me up, send me home, where I got another whooping from my mother for embarrassing her, and then Daddy came home. That was a 3-for-1 beating.
And before and before you know it, Grandma knew about it.
Exactly.
Everybody knew that you were acting up. Dennis Bailey, I want to thank you so much for being here with me. God bless you, and God keep you. I'll be in touch. You can I guarantee you that. I want to give you the website one more time, folks. Go Mad Tags, GOMADTAGS.com. GoMadTags.com. Go there. Check out what I've been talking to you about. I'm CL. We'll be back with a year in review when I return. CL, back with you here on the weekend show. I was just on with Dennis Bailey and Go Mad, GoMadTags.com. I think you're going to like that. You're going to really like it. Christians out there, all of you, whatever you think you need to go make another disciple of, Go Mad is all about it. But don't go crazy as far as that is concerned. Do it in the right and proper way. Now, I told you we got to do this year in review, and it has been an incredible year. There's so many things that we have perhaps even forgotten about in this 2016 year that is just about to slip away from us. And when you hear the replay of this show on tomorrow morning, of course, we will be standing in New Year's Eve. And then when you hear the replay of this show on Monday morning, it will be a new year, the first full day of the second full day of the new year, Monday. Joining me now to help kick this off is a good friend of the show, good friend of mine. She is a Texas Republican woman, and she is very prosperous in what she does, and definitely a blessing to us as America in her message. Karen Watson, thank you so much for joining me here again on the C.L. Bryant Show. How are you?
Oh, I'm great. Thank you. I'm blessed, and I just am thankful for all the many blessings that God has bestowed upon us and myself and my family.
Absolutely, Karen. And the one thing I think that did, in fact, dominate the entire scene in America this past year was the presidential election. And I want to revisit now with you the failure of Hillary Clinton. Why did she fail, and how did the pollsters get all of that so wrong in your estimation?
I think the pollsters live in a bubble. They think everyone thinks like they do because they told everyone else that if you're smart and you are a good person, you're going to be a liberal. You're going to just go for their ideology. And I think the people were like, no, I don't think it's smart to have boys and girls bathroom. No, I think it's not smart to have a country without a border. No, I don't think it's smart to abuse Christians, that's the fabric of our nation. And I think that's what was said at the polls. People weren't able to come out, and say how they felt because they would be vilified. And that's what's happening now. I mean, you see people with Trump T-shirts or Trump caps on, and these people are attacked.
Let me ask you this then. Speaking about Donald Trump, at the beginning of the year, I would not have believed, beginning of 2016, I would not have believed that a former reality show star, a billionaire in his own right, someone who has no military or political background as far as DJT, Donald J. Trump, is concerned, would have become president of the United States. But he has become the president-elect of the United States. He has defied everything that people thought coming into this year. What is and what was the catalyst? What was the formula, do you think, that was necessary in this country for a person like Donald Trump to become president of the United States?
I think it was his message. It wasn't about Trump. It was about Make America Great Again. And that was resonating. Trump is very bold when he says, we're going to build a wall and Mexico's going to pay for it. And, the thing is, well, why can't we build a wall? Why can't Mexico pay for it? Why can't we get countries to stop taking advantage of us on trade deals? Why can't we talk to our own businesses here and tell them not to send jobs overseas because our people here need the jobs? And we can see even before the inauguration, that's already starting.
Yeah.
We have companies that were shipping jobs elsewhere saying, you know what, no, we're going to keep those jobs here. So those are things that could have been done. And, under the Obama administration. He just didn't do it because it wasn't his ideology. It never would have happened under Hillary. Hillary didn't run on a plan. She just ran on the fact that she's a woman and you should vote for her, period. And she was going to continue to do the Obama, blueprint, which was bring our country into, into failure.
It's amazing that the political pro like Hillary Clinton was beaten again by an upstart. Obama upset her apple cart, and DJT has upset her apple cart as well. Now, one thing I think, Karen, that played into this too was the untrustworthiness that people found in Hillary Clinton. Were Americans just plain out and out tired of politics as usual? How do you view that?
I believe so. I mean, you have the issues of her server, and they're acting as if the Russians messed with the elections. Whether they did mess with her getting emails out or not, they didn't write the emails. Hillary Clinton lost this election on her own. She didn't give a vision. She didn't have a plan. She said she was going to continue to do what Obama had done, which was horrific. She also just, she never connected with people. No one knew what she was about. And then plus, you still had Benghazi. You still had her losing the billions at the State Department. You still have, she's got a record.
Yeah.
And
but it wasn't a good one.
Good. Yeah, it wasn't good.
Now, let me ask you this, Karen. Can we expect the political scene to remain a bar fight? I want to deal with that because this last, folks, stay with me through the break, Karen, because this last political season was basically a barroom brawl in both primaries. From the Republican primary with Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio, and all the other 7 dwarfs, or actually 16 other dwarfs that were out there. It was basically a bar fight. And when I come back, I'm going to talk to Karen Watson, Republican strategist and extraordinary businesswoman there in Dallas, about the coming scene, what we can expect in the future. I'm CL. Be right back.
Broadcasting from the Bayou State and all around the Gulf Coast and streaming nationwide. This is the C.L. Bryant Show.
It is I, your native son, CL, here on this weekend show. We're in year in review here this weekend show. It is the last it's the last weekend of 2016, and we will be stepping into a new year symbolically, as we do here as human beings throughout the world, into 2017. 3 years away from that futuristic date, coveted date, to make it to 2020. And I'm on sharing with Karen Watson, Republican strategist and businesswoman extraordinaire there in Dallas, Texas. And Karen, when I left, we were talking about the total bar fight that broke out in both parties over this last election cycle, presidential election cycle. And the question I have for you, can we expect then there to be a new flavoring, a new attitude in politics? Have they opened up a new type of way of doing politics, and is that good? Is it bad? Or is it uncivil? How are you looking at that?
Well, I am saddened by the vitriol in the rhetoric that is taking place, and I think it needs to come together, because we're the United States of America, and we're better when we're united, and we can come together and be this great shining light on the hill. And what we've got to do is just all calm down and let's just all get together and let's just support our candidate. I heard Maxine Waters say, "I don't care what he's doing. I will fight him tooth and nail." And I'm thinking,
yeah, you're right. She did say that. It really is. And back when our country was young, we know that there were really brawls and stuff. But we would think that in 240 years, we would have evolved or matured or whatever as a people. But it seems as though we're devolving with race, with politics, and everything else, Karen, in this country back into a time. Is that then, my question is this, is that then something that we are seeing because there is an element and an air of incivility in this country that and where is it coming from? Where's the incivility in this country coming from? We can't blame all that on Obama, but I know a lot of people like to.
We can blame a lot on Obama, and I'll tell you why, Phil. Because the thing is what in my research and discussions and studies, Obama and the left use attacks, ad hominem attacks against people, because they didn't have a plan or a program to stand on. So when you don't have a record, you know what I'm saying? It's just like when the old jokes where people would say, "Well, you're failing," and people the answer would be, "Well, your mama." You know what I'm saying? Well, it's like, no, it's not. They make it personal. And what Obama has done, and Pelosi and Reid, is all their attacks were so personal.
Yeah.
You've got to be an idiot if you're a Republican. You've got to be, you're just a horrible person. I mean, they made people out as if they were children of the devil if you didn't think like they do. If you don't believe in open borders, well, you're just a racist. Or if you don't believe that gays should marry inside
you're a homophobe.
Church house, you're just homophobic.
You know something, Karen. Both of us were active in the Tea Party movement back 8-9 years ago now, and this is something that's really striking to me. I don't know if you've heard this or not, but Bernie Sanders is using the Tea Party model in order to solicit the government for, and we were talking about taxed enough already. That's T. That's what some of you folks don't know. But Bernie Sanders is using it to say we're not taxed enough already. That's what Bernie is actually launching, a Tea Party on the left, and it is gaining steam. It's going to be interesting to watch. And you and I were a part of that original Tea Party. You there in Texas and me here in Louisiana, of course, both of us throughout the country. And we were vilified. You were talking about being vilified.
Oh, yeah.
But, and folks, let me tell you, both of us being black and conservative and Republican, you don't know vilification.
Baptism by fire, my friend, by fire. until you are black, Republican, and conservative. That is the vilification. Karen, I want to thank you so much for joining us. How do we get your works? How do we get a look at your work as an author, in your books? Yes, thank you. My book, Being Black and Republican, Age of Obama, How Democrats Stole the Black Vote, and my last book, Jackass, The True Story of the Democrat Party and Their Abuse of Black America. People can connect with me on Facebook. They can go to our website, GOPbuzz.com. They can email me at karen.watson@GOPbuzz.com. And I just want to take just a quick second and thank UCL for your your strength, your tenacity, your endurance, your perseverance, your faith in what this nation was all about, that we can, as people, be together and be what our founders promised.
Absolutely.
And thank you, thank you, thank you.
God bless
you.
God bless
And
you. And glory,
stay
all glory to
strong.
God. All glory to God.
Yes.
And thank you so much for those accolades, Karen. And again, thank you for being a friend of the show, being a friend of mine, and a friend to our great nation. I'll talk to you soon. God bless and keep you.
You too.
Karen Watson, thank you so much for being on with me. And folks, we're going to be back with more Year in Review when I return. I'm CL, and this is the CL Bryant Show. There are some things that we may have forgotten that has happened in this past year. It's the nature of being human. We many times just forget because other things crop up. And some of them seemingly just as important, just as heinous, just as horrible as the last thing. We're about to enter into a new year, and those important, those heinous, those horrible, and those wonderful things will be occurring as well. And in making our country great again, folks, as we sit here on the eve, on the brink of 2017, let us make sure that we enter into 2016 with the right stuff, the same stuff that made us great to begin with, the endowment that we have of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness given to us by our Creator. Jefferson was not laxed in making sure he put that in the founding documents. I'm CL. Back in a minute. CL, back with you on the weekend show, standing on the brink of 2017 as we head into a new year. And all of you here in this region of the country are familiar with Pilgrim's Pride chicken and being a preacher and being a black preacher in particular. Black conservative preacher, but particularly a preacher. You know we love us some chicken. I've eaten many pieces of Pilgrim Pride. On with me now is the former CEO of Pilgrim Pride. His name is Buddy Pilgrim. Buddy, thank you so much for being a friend of the show, a friend of mine. Thank you for being on today. How are you, friend?
I'm doing terrific, CL. It's an honor to be on your program every time you call. God bless you.
Always good to be with you, buddy. We're reviewing the incidents in the past year and the year in review. And this past year, you were a great part of my involvement in politics and so forth as we move toward electing or nominating this president. Both of us, of course, had Ted Cruz as our primary candidate, but it just didn't turn out that way. And, of course, we did venture go to New York together to get a look at this new guy by the name of Donald Trump. And, of course, he turned out to be the presidential candidate and also the president-elect now for our nation. I was asking our last guest, who was also a Texan, Karen Watson, I was asking Karen, how did a phenomenon like Donald Trump come about in your estimation? How did that happen, buddy?
Well, that's a challenging question, CL, but I think it goes back to the idea that the majority of Americans, really in both political parties, were fed up with business as usual in Washington, D.C., and they wanted an outsider. And that's why on the left, there were so many of them that were supporting Bernie Sanders, and of course Hillary Clinton already had the Democrat nomination locked up because of the way she controlled superdelegates on the Democrat side, and she had the political organization over there to stop Sanders. But my point is, even on the left, they were looking for somebody who was different, who was not a traditional politician. On the right, if you remember from the very beginning, the people who were popular on the right were Ted Cruz, clearly, even though he's a senator, is an outsider. Ben Carson, an outsider, never been a politician. Carly Fiorina, an outsider, never been a politician. Donald Trump, an outsider, certainly never been a politician. So Americans have been looking for somebody to change the way that we've been doing business in Washington, D.C. And many of us, like you said, that supported Ted, thought he would be the one that rose to the top. He was the next to the last man standing on the Republican side. But if you just look at those two, you'll see how much pent-up demand there was for something different. And in the end, Trump ended up winning because he convinced people that he's not politically correct. He's not interested in being politically correct. He's interested in saying the things that are on his mind, the things that so many of us are thinking. And people believed that he would go up there and change things, shake things up. Some people didn't even know how he'd shake them up.
Oh, he has been a shaker-upper. There's no question about it. He has changed the entire political landscape. And there's also Buddy Pilgrim and I both are unashamedly, unabashedly Christians, and we believe and are followers of Jesus Christ. But there has been an incredible attack on religious freedom in this country as well, Buddy. Can we expect there to be a turnaround in that type of attitude now that we have this president, or do you think the left or the forces of progressive liberalism will actually ramp up their attacks on Christians and the Judeo-Christian ethic in your estimation?
I think they will continue to press forward in their attacks, but I think the left has been put back on their heels a little bit. Now, keep in mind, they never give up, they never let up, they never back up, they just double down. Barack Obama always did that. It didn't matter if Barack Obama lost the House in 2010 or lost the Senate in 2014. It didn't matter how many state legislative and governorships they lost on the Democrat side. Obama never backed down. He only doubled down. And the left in general does that. I think what's going on now, though, is they are so much in disarray because they expected to win this election, and I think they expected to even take back the Senate. They might have said they were going to take back the House, but I don't think many of them really expected that.
No.
And I think they're in so much disarray that we have a narrow window of opportunity. I'm not saying they won't come after religious freedom again. They certainly will. But they're distracted by their overall loss of power right now. And I think we have to use this on the right and use it particularly as Christians, people of faith that are involved in the political arena, use this as our opportunity to aggressively push forth initiatives that will help protect our religious liberty going forward and even take back some of the ground that we've lost in the last 50 years.
Now, Buddy, you have been in business a long time. You've been successful in business a long time. But I'm seeing a certain lie that's going around in this country, and that is the unemployment rate. And but I am optimistic. Some people say I had a radio host up in Canada who's basically the Rush Limbaugh of Canada, Roy Green. He was telling me that he saw something in Americans, Buddy, that he had not seen before, and that was anxiety. And that was before Trump was actually elected president of the United States. But what I'm seeing now is absolutely optimism. I'm seeing optimism in Americans right now, and even though we know the unemployment numbers, the way the Obama administration is turning them out to us, are basically fudged, but I do see optimism. How are you seeing the employment and the financial picture here in America right now?
I think there's tremendous optimism now because Trump is going to reduce business taxes. his stated plan is to reduce the business tax to 15%, and I think that's a terrific thing to do. And the reason I believe that is because ultimately, as you know, businesses don't pay taxes. They collect taxes and pass them on to consumers in the way of increased costs. So every tax that a business pays is passed on in the long run in the cost of goods and services to consumers. So if you reduce the burden, and that's what a tax is, by definition, it's a burden or a levy placed upon an activity or a thing. And if you reduce the burden placed upon something, you get more of it. So if you reduce the tax burden placed upon business, you'll get more business activity.
Hold that thought right there, buddy. Hold that thought right there. Stay with me through the break. I'm on with LM Buddy Pilgrim, former CEO of Pilgrim's Pride Chicken. I'm CL. This is the CL Bryant Show, the most listened to in the Arklatex. Thank you so much for making it that. I'll be back in just a couple of minutes. CL, the weekend show here in the jeweled cities of the Arklatex, Shreveport, and Bossier. I want to welcome aboard all you folks in southern Arkansas and East Texas as well. And my friends in Wilmington, North Carolina at WLTT 1180. There in Wilmington. I want to thank you for welcoming us into your family. Pittsburgh, Denver, Phoenix. We'll be headed your way real soon as the CL Bryant Show begins to spread out throughout the country. On with me now is a businessman extraordinaire and a friend of mine, and I'm glad to call him that. But we got to spend more time together in 2017 than we did in 2016. There's a lot of things I want to run past you.
I agree.
But, buddy, you were talking about the business climate and the health of America. The health of business in this country. You're having an optimistic view of that. Tell us, continue as to why you have that type of view.
Two main reasons. Trump's decision and announcement that he's going to reduce business taxes to 15%. Anytime a tax is a burden upon activity, anytime you reduce a burden upon activity, you get more of it. So businesses will have more of their own money left over to reinvest into expanding the business. And the second thing that he's going to do, and I believe he'll follow, is to substantially reduce regulation. Not only reduce the implementation of new regulation, but actually reduce and take back some of the regulation that Obama has put in place. Even though for the last several years, the country as a whole has said we've had kind of a do-nothing Congress because there's been gridlock between Republicans and Democrats in Congress. That doesn't mean there haven't been a lot of laws enacted, because most laws nowadays, quite frankly, the majority of the law nowadays that's enacted is what's called administrative law. And administrative law is a regulation that's put in place by a bureaucrat in Washington, D.C., that never sees the light of day in Congress, in the House, or the Senate, never signed by the President. It's just bureaucracies regulating our lives. The amount of regulation that's been put on business strangles it, and it makes it more difficult for the United States to be competitive on the world market. And I think Trump understands that, and he'll do away with this.
Well, the final question that I have for you is this, Buddy Pilgrim. We're on with LM Buddy Pilgrim, former CEO of Pilgrim's Pride Chicken, and everybody in this region very familiar with that. Matter of fact, I believe that is on the dinner table tonight at the Bryant household. Now, let me ask you this. How then What then do you think is the most important, some of the most important things that he has to get done, the new president, has to get done in the first 100 days? What do you think, maybe top three or four things that he should do in that first 100 days, Buddy Pilgrim?
Obamacare, he's got to begin the process of repealing Obamacare and replacing it with free market solutions that bring choice and competition into play for individual consumers and take the stranglehold off of business. The other taxes that I mentioned just a minute ago, reduction of regulation. I think those are significant things. The other thing he's going to do that you and I as Christians should be very interested in is I think Trump is genuinely interested in signing a law to reverse or to do away with what's called the Johnson Amendment.
Yeah.
In 1954, that's the law that says that it's illegal for a preacher to really basically talk about politics. It says it's illegal for him to endorse a candidate or a law from the pulpit, and it is used by the IRS as a threatening tool to keep pastors from talking about issues in the pulpit that can affect politics. And listen, when you become a minister, and I know you're a minister, I'm an ordained minister as well, I'm a businessman, but when I was ordained as a minister, I didn't lose my Second Amendment right.
Absolutely not.
Amendment right to freedom of speech.
Absolutely not. And you know, buddy, I've pastored 3 churches from California to Florida to here in Louisiana, where we just built the last church that the Lord allowed me to build. And, buddy, I tell you, I have always said to my congregations, whether they were large or small congregations, I have said to them, if that's a fight that they want to fight, we need to force them to fight that fight, because I believe we can win that one every time. Buddy, listen, God bless you. God keep you. Happy New Year to you and your family. And I look forward to increasing and strengthening our relationship as we enter into 2017.
I agree. Happy New Year to you and all of your listeners. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Buddy Pilgrim, Pilgrim's Pride Chicken. And I thank him so much for being there. And, folks, we're going to be back with more of the C.L. Bryant Show in just a few minutes. We have more wrap-up. We're going to talk about some more things. I'm going to bring in one of my colleagues here after this next segment, RJ Robert J. Wright, here, one of my colleagues in Town Square. I'm going to bring him in. We're going to talk about a few things here locally in the segments coming up, so don't go anywhere. I'm CL. This is the CL Bryant Show. I want to thank each and every one of our sponsors throughout this year who have been there with us. And I want to tell you, the opportunity for you to remain with us and to grow with us has never been better. I believe the business climate in this country is just asking for folks who want to be recognized on shows like this to climb on board. As you know, it was the talk shows, both radio and television, through people like myself and my good friend Sean Hannity. Sean being one who never forsook the president. I think it's perfect timing to be on. And don't you think that I'm not going to have him on the show. The president will be coming on this show this next year. I'll be talking to you about that when I return. I'm CL. Back in a minute. CL back on this weekend show, and I want to thank each and every one of you throughout the fruited plains of this great nation called America, the greatest success story the world has ever known, and the greatest country that the history has ever recorded, and that is the United States of America. We have been whoa. What I got here? Oh, that's what the problem.
Why don't we start that again?
Let's do that again.
Huh? I don't know.
Let's do that.
You're okay. Why don't you turn my mic down a little bit? That could have been it. Okay. Okay, we're good. Or you might want to turn CL a little bit up.
CL back with you on this weekend show, and I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us there in southern Arkansas as well as East Texas and throughout the fruited plains of the greatest nation on the face of the earth, the greatest success story the world has ever known, and that would be America. And our friends in Wilmington, North Carolina, 1180 WLTT, want to thank you for welcoming us into the family. It has been an incredible year gone past. There's so much that has happened. Much of it we have forgotten about. On with me to discuss here some things that did happen locally. I want to remind you, Louisianians, of the political turmoil that we went through here in this state. And one of my colleagues is someone who is a fixture, a staple in this community. He is Robert J. Wright of Robert and Aaron in the Morning Show, and he's joining me now. Sits in for me sometimes when I'm out as well. And he and Mike Woods, along with Mike Johnson, who is now our congressman, they always do a fantastic job, along with Michelle, when I am gone. Robert J. Wright, my friend, thank you so much for being here.
I'm a staple, or more like a stomach staple, but I know what you mean. So, what did you want and I would have thought twice, but what did you want my opinion about this lovely day?
This is what I wanted to talk to you about on this lovely day, Robert J. Wright, and that is this gubernatorial election that transpired here in this state. You know, a lot of people talked about the presidential election and how that was such a Donnybrook. The gubernatorial election here in Louisiana was a Donnybrook as well.
Well, it was ugly.
It was ugly.
But it was only ugly on one guy. And that was the guy who lost.
Well, no, it was ugly on the other guy, too.
Let me ask you something, because I've heard this a million times.
Yeah. So you're trying to cozy up to the governor. I see what's happening right here.
He's an awesome interview.
Oh!
A very friendly fellow.
I see.
And that's where it ends.
And that's where you're going to leave it, right there.
What I said during the campaign was, because we had him on a bunch, we had Mr. Vitter, then Senator Vitter, on a great deal. Or, Mm-hmm. And I said, in the end, it comes down to this.
Likability?
John Bell Edwards, well, as far as me telling listeners what I thought, I said, at the end of the day, you can like John Bell all you want. Be a good drinking buddy. But at the end of the day, John Bell Edwards was twice a superdelegate for Barack Obama.
Oh, yeah.
What else
did you need to know?
What else do you need to know? For me, the discussion ended right there.
But now, the American Louisianians knew that. They knew it, and they voted him in anyway.
They may have known that, but in the end, once again, you tell me if I'm right or wrong, because I've heard this a million times, and I know you have too. The only Republican that John Bell Edwards could have beaten was the one the Republicans ran. Yes or no, yay or nay, uh-huh or uh-uh.
I've heard that. I really have. And you know how, David's a friend of mine. David is a good friend of mine.
Yes.
And
and you know what he wasn't? A superdelegate for Barack Obama.
He was not that. And he has been he was, and of course his term is expiring now, and we will be filling that with John Kennedy. But, you're probably right, but what is it? This is a question I want to ask you. What is it about past? And was it this, RJ? Was it the past indiscretion of Vitter that was his downfall, or was it this What happened? Why couldn't a great senator with a natural progression to the governor's chair from there not get there because of that supposedly staying, or was that it at all?
If David Vitter has, besides the one that John Bell threw at him repeatedly, if I'm not going to say a political flaw, he's not, and you know him well, he is, at least in the media, not a smiley, upbeat, outgoing person.
He's Nixon-esque.
And
sort of like Nixon. Nixon wasn't a huggy. He wasn't the kind of guy you'd want to just go hug. Is that?
But you know as well as I do, as soon as the mics go off, as soon as the cameras turn off,
great guy.
He's 180 degrees.
Great guy to be around.
I think the Edwards campaign painted him with some degree of legitimacy as unlikable.
Yeah.
And at the same time, they portrayed themselves as at this point in the history of Louisiana, what every single Democrat who wants to have a chance post-Katrina, speaking bluntly, has to do. If you're going to win in Louisiana as a Republican, as a Democrat, you have to paint yourself as a Democrat who is socially conservative, religiously conservative, politically conservative. In other words, you've got to say, well, I'm a Democrat, but that's just because
yeah. So Louisiana,
I bought my car from them.
Local politics in Louisiana, even though we're solidly red nationally, is still blue dog.
Yes or no? John Bell was able to sell. John Bell sold himself as the Democrat who's really a Republican.
He did that.
There you go.
He did that.
And at the same time, pointing at David Vitter saying, hey, look at, there's an immoral man.
Yeah.
And on top of that, he's not very smiley.
He did that.
It was a perfect storm. So I'm back to the original question. Did the Republicans run the only one that John Bell could beat?
I can only answer it this way. Evidently. That was the success, the formula for success. Let's talk about then the congressional race. We had a melee
2 minutes
in the congressional race, for the House, United States House of Representatives, and my guy this time. The guy I really do. You know I love this guy.
There is not a finer man anywhere. And I told people on election night, because I covered his headquarters, and I said to his family members, I said to his friends, I said, and I've said it on the radio 1,000 times, Mike Johnson is the next big Republican star.
Real deal. He is the real deal.
Because he is exactly what you see. And in addition to being a moral man, a religious man, a family man, a conservative man.
Yes.
He is not a strident man, no matter how many times early on the national media tried to portray him as, oh, he's a hater. It doesn't stick with Mike Johnson. He has a way. And you know him exceedingly well.
Yeah, no. If anybody knows Mike Johnson, of course, there's a story that I don't tell because I don't ever want to politicize it or anything like that. But if you know Mike Johnson, there is no way that you would ever label him as any type of.
But he has a way of reaching out to people, specifically for the sake of today's conversation.
Yeah.
People who disagree with him. He is not off-putting. He has a way of bridging that gap and hopefully down the line convincing people other than you and me and the vast majority of people in this district that voted for him, 60+%, that the conservative way, that Mike Johnson's way is the way to go.
Robert J. Wright, Robert and Aaron in the morning. Thank you for being here with me, brother. I'll talk to you on the trail. Happy New Year, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'll be back in just a minute. I'm CL. CL back on this eve before the eve of the new year weekend show here on Friday in the jewel cities of the architects, Shreveport and Bossier. There have been so many things that have gone on in this past year that I certainly want to discuss with you now. And one of them is the rise of being in a stupor. Yeah. America has been in a stupor in more ways than one in this year than any other time that I can track. We can go back to the 70s, the 60s, when the drug culture was rampant in this country. But then you would be talking about a younger generation of people who were in a stupor, the college stupor, that type of thing. And in speaking of that, I want to mention, I think I mentioned this yesterday, and I want to mention it again by way of setting up what I'm going to talk about here in this segment. Robert Leo Holzman, the inventor of that red cup that I often had in my hand when I was going to college and when I was a younger man. It was called a Solo cup. All of you know, anybody over the age of 3 has drank out of one. Well, he died yesterday. He was the inventor of the Solo cup. I think Toby Keith actually has a song dedicated to that red cup, that Solo cup. But it was just more than the drink that was contained in the Solo cup that has put us in an American stupor. Much, much more than that. There has been an epidemic. There is an epidemic in this past year, and it was coming to a head before this year came about. It was coming to a head. It's been a long time coming. And you've had all types of people who have fallen victim to it coming. Rush Limbaugh being one. He'll gladly tell you he was addicted to painkillers, oxycodone. He was addicted to that. Michael Jackson was addicted to that a long time before then. But oxycodone and heroin in the year 2016 came into the American spotlight in ways that we would not have suspected and in places that we would not have guessed. When you think about places like New Hampshire being one of the heroin capitals, abuse capitals of the country, who would have thunk it? When you think about people who are middle-aged and older, who have serious addictions to painkillers like oxycodone, who would have thunk it? Now you couple that together with a struggling economy, a struggling employment rate. And the employment rate that we talked about a little bit earlier, that 5%, that 4%, 5%, no. Far, way off. That's way in the weeds. No, we're talking a very high unemployment rate in this country, more like 12 to 15%. Couple that with addictions gone mad, like heroin and oxycodone, things that make you feel better, things that put you in an American stupor. That causes us then not to be sober. And when you're not sober, you cannot be vigilant. And when we're not vigilant, Thomas Jefferson said, we can lose our liberty. He said the price of keeping our liberty would be eternal vigilance. But you cannot be watchful or vigilant when you are in an American stupor. Prince died, age 56. So many people that we saw leave this world. Princess Leia, Star Wars fame, died just a couple of days ago. She had been a long-time abuser of narcotics, had kind of gotten straight as far as that was concerned, and amazingly, the entire idea about her death was just too much for her mother, Debbie Reynolds. Don't know anything about Debbie's use of any type of drugs or anything of that nature, but folks, Carrie Fisher grew up Hollywood royalty. Prince was otherworldly as far as his abilities were concerned. So much so that one of the most recognized, noted, and many say the greatest guitarist, blues guitarist to ever live, Eric Clapton, was once asked the question, Mr. Clapton, how does it feel to be the greatest guitarist in the world? And Eric Clapton said, I don't know. Ask Prince. That, my friends, was the type of gift that this drug-addicted, American-stupid entertainer, that's the kind of accolades that people bestowed upon him. Gone much too soon because of the abuse. He and Carrie Fisher. I'm back in just a minute. Speaking of those who we had lost in this past year, all of you know that I am a great lover of music. Everybody from Prince to Johnny Taylor, the Texas Wailer, to Merle Haggard. We lost old Merle here in this past year. Merle had been an abuser of drugs. He had been in a stupor, but he was never less than phenomenal in his entertaining. So many have gone on away from here this past year. Prince, Carrie Fisher, Merle Haggard. Wow, it's just amazing what has transpired. Another thing that was on the American horizon that you may have forgotten were the floods. Not only that attack or they affect Maryland, but they certainly affected Louisiana. Louisiana was devastated. Baton Rouge, my son and his family were flooded out in Louisiana. Same thing happened up in Maryland as well. The floods in 2016 were historic. And folks, it brought out the best in us in this past year. We forget just how warm and fuzzy everything was here in our nation when those types of things occurred, especially here in Louisiana. I never will forget the Cajun Navy down there. Rob Goodday came on with tears in his eyes, saying we need to help our folks in Louisiana. And so many of you pitched in and went down to help in southern Louisiana. The Zika virus came about. People in Rio de Janeiro were concerned about the Zika virus. We were concerned about the mosquitoes that might come from it here in Louisiana as well. Transgendered bathrooms, North Carolina. It has not gone by the wayside, but yet it was huge news. And we only can wait and see how this will transpire over a period of time, especially with this new administration that's coming in, that will, in fact, let everyone know that there is indeed a new sheriff in town. The attacks on religious liberty. How will that go? Because it was huge during 2016. Christians were fair game during 2016. Patriotism was something that you did not want to talk about on college campuses if you did not want to be on, even though they'd been on for a while. They became quite popular in 2016, coming under fire as they did for their Christian beliefs. It makes us think, it makes us wonder just how this next year is going to play out. Fidel is dead. Fidel Castro, dead after 50 years of being a dictator in Cuba, surviving all types of assassination attempts, overthrowing a dictator in Batista, only to become a dictator himself. Fidel Castro. Sometimes I thought he was kept alive by the devil himself. But he's dead. And Cuba is now a place that some Americans are saying that they'd like to go visit. And to tell you the truth, now that Fidel is gone, I might go myself. The only problem that I have is I know that when I pay a hotel fee or even eat at a restaurant, most of that money will go to the pockets of Raul Castro. So I think I may wait until Raul is dead too before I visit Cuba. And then when we look at sports, I want to talk about two phenomenal athletes, both historical and presently, when I return here on the weekend show, where we are looking at the year 2016 in review. I'm CL, and I want to thank each and every one of our sponsors who have been with us throughout this past year and the last 2 years for making year number 3 possible, with us being as popular as we are throughout this nation. I'll be back in just a few minutes. Simone Biles in Rio de Janeiro this summer proved that she was preeminent in the world of gymnastics. Simone Biles, remember that name. She's young enough to go and do it again. And also, let us not forget that Michael Phelps, 28 lifetime medals, more than anyone has ever had, and probably more than anyone will ever have. Michael Phelps did shine through in sports. He, along with Simone Biles, in the Rio de Janeiro Olympics, one of the few times during the 4 years of a presidency, any presidency in American history, that we as Americans all, I think, for those 2 weeks, feel the same kind of patriotism. LeBron James proved that he is Superman. Hey, coming from behind the way he did, have you forgotten that LeBron did legitimately King James? And then the greatest passed away, Muhammad Ali. It has been said at one point in time in our world history, there were 3 names that everyone would recognize on the planet. The first was Jesus Christ. The second was Elvis Presley. And the third was Muhammad Ali. To reach that kind of greatness coming from a place like Louisville, Kentucky, after telling a cop that he was looking for his bike and he was going to whoop whoever had stolen it. Muhammad Ali's story could only be told in America. There are many who love to hate him. There are many of us who love to love him. Especially coming up in the time that I came up in, Muhammad Ali represented something to us as young Americans, me being a young black American, that no one else had ever represented before. And that was a certain strength of character, that regardless of what folks thought about you, and of course his politics and mine eventually became so much different, but the core values of doing right, loving God, and loving what you do, those core values were something that he exemplified throughout all of his life. The greatest, Muhammad Ali, left us also in 2016. But there was a rise of terror in 2016 as well, in many ways. Terror on the streets of America. Terror on those who are charged with keeping the peace in this country. Terror when we think about the lives that were lost, that spawned the violence against police officers, whether it was right or wrong. Black Lives Matter, Hands Up, Don't Shoot, Occupy Wall Street, all of those gained resurgence in the year 2016. And one thing that must not resurge, and one thing we must make sure we keep a lid on, is terror against our communities when police officers are struck down in the line of duty. Folks, I think it is time that we understand, and we must send this message, that when you strike down a peace officer, you have taken a strike against your community. That was on the rise in America. Terror in France. ISIS claimed terror in France as well as other points in the world, places like Mosul, places like Aleppo, North Korea, and leaders like Vladimir Putin gained new prominence in world conversation, along with Syria. America, we have been through an incredible time here in these last 12 months. It has been incredible. And as we look toward our American future, we have to keep in mind that it is up to us how the narrative will be told from this point on. 4 years, we're about to give a new president of the United States. And I will continue to remind you of the words of our founders, especially Thomas Jefferson, when we understand that the price of our liberty is eternal vigilance. I'm CL. We'll be back with the home stretch.
Here comes old Rose, she's looking mighty fine. Here comes Hot Nancy, she's stepping right on time. Here go the street lights, bring it on tonight. Here come the man.
Well, as we close out this year of the C.L. Bryant Show, I want to thank Michelle, Rick, Jay, Ruben, the entire Town Square family who help us be what we are and who we are. I want to thank all of you. I particularly want to thank our sponsors for being there. And folks, the most important person that I want to thank here on this earth is my wife, Jane, who affords me this opportunity to be on the air with you most days when I'm in town, and she affords me the opportunity to travel like I do. Sometimes she's with me, sometimes she's holding down the home fire, the campfire at home. But I want to thank her for being the good wife that she has been to me for over 40 years. Love you, honey. Well, folks, the last thing I want to leave you with is this year, Americans, we topped the 325 million population mark. It's 325 million of us in this country right now. And those are the ones that we're documenting legally. Illegally, I'm sure there's more. But we now have the tools to deal with that. And I certainly hope that we deal with those who are here illegally. We must become and must remain a country that understands our own rule of law. Let's not be overcome with evil in America. But friends, I encourage you to hear the words of Scripture. Let us make it our business in the next year to overcome evil with good. It has been a fantastic year. And I want to wish each and every one of you a merry, well, not a Merry Christmas, Well, I hope you had a Merry Christmas, but I want to wish each and every one of you a Happy New Year from the C.L. Bryant Show. And we're going to hit the ground running in 2017. God has given us opportunities that I certainly trust He will allow us the grace to take advantage of them. And I want to thank Him. I want to thank God for bringing us to the close of another year. I want to thank Him for our men and women around the globe who defend our right to speak our minds. And until I see you in the new year, I'm CL. This is the C.L. Bryant Show. And may God bless and keep you all. Happy New Year.
We'll stand by your side, and the bond will